fortunate to have with us today Gary Beiseman, and he's going to give us a presentation on some historical farming, specifically the wheat farming in Wayne County, Missouri. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Gary.
Well, they didn't pick the best guy in the world, but we'll do what we can. This is not about total farming. It's not about the whole thing. We kind of zeroed in on wheat, but you'd be here a long time if we started talking about doing everything that farmers did. And so we're going to start with a prayer, and I'm going to ask my wife, where did she go?
Cheryl. Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl.
She went to get the food, sorry.
I will have to give credit to Mary Banger, for all the work she's done to set this all up. She is a wonderful setup person, and she's put a lot of time in it and so forth. And tell her how much you appreciate what she's done. I'm just going to try to do what it said. Cheryl, would you ask the blessing on everything? All right.
Dear Lord Almighty in heaven, we come humbled at your feet, Lord, and we thank you so much for all of your beautiful blessings. Lord, we thank you so much for this beautiful day that you have given us, and for Gary and everyone that has come, Lord. We pray that everyone enjoys today's presentation. We ask that you give Gary anything you want him to say, Lord. We are just thrilled that you have blessed us with all of this. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Cheryl has recently discovered she has cancer. But the Lord's good. She's had better reports every time she's went to the doctor. She still feels good, and we're going to beat it. So anyway, very good. Okay, the first picture is of my grandparents when they got married in 1908, Ada and Gus Beiseman. Gus came over from Bochum, Germany in 1882 to a place called Mary's Home, Missouri. Don't ask me where that's at. It's south of Jefferson City, somewhere down there. And that's where he grew up. But in 1912, for some reason or another, they decided to come to Piedmont and bought the place where we're at now, where we live, for $1,900. Now, that sounds like that's cheap. It would be today, but you have to remember, the average salary then was $1 a day. I don't know why they did it, but I'm glad they did. And I'm still yet to marvel at their pioneering spirit to just take off to an unknown place. But I found a map. It's an old tattered map now. And on the front cover of it, it says, "Come to Wayne County, the county of beautiful homes, streams, and country," something like that. And they came down here on their promise, I think. And they came in 1912. They came on a freight train. And Grandpa rented a boxcar, loaded all their stuff in the boxcar. It was a freight train, not passenger. And he bought a pistol to protect them from the oboes, which we still have. And loaded up the wagon and everything, and came down here on that freight train. I'm just guessing they pulled up the depot out here, unloaded everything, and came out to the place which they had already previously purchased. We're going by 1912 because that's the date the deed was recorded at Greenville, early that spring. But anyway, I would like to know what they had to say and how they figured out they was going to come down here. But they did. Now, farming was no easy task. It was a life of hard work. Still is pretty hard. You talk about cab tractors and air conditioning now, but it's still tough. It's still a hard way to make money for the most part. And if you were soybeans, corn, or some kind of grain farmer this year, in the last couple of years, you lost money. If you were in cattle, you might have made some, but not with the other. My grandpa here, that's about 17 or 18, and he'd just come down here a while, and he was already farming. He come down in 1912, and he was already farming. Dad was born in 1913. He didn't have kids and boys to help him at that time, and he farmed. Well, the first things you did when you farmed is you cleared the ground. Now, he bought an old place that had been homesteaded in about 1850. And so it had been cleared a lot, but they cleared some of it too. And so you had the stumps to deal with, you had a lot of trees to deal with, and you farmed around them the best you could till the stumps rotted out and you burned all the brush and so forth. And Tim's gonna help me a little bit. And you didn't plow with a tractor. Can you grab that thing back there?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna hold this out here for just a minute. And this was the plow my grandfather used to start with. Believe it or not, it was in the barn. We still have a lot, you got it?
Yeah.
Still have a lot of equipment that they used in the barn. The old corn planter and the old mowing machine and a few things like that. And they were all mule, horse drawn and so forth. Now, how much ground do you think you could plow in a day with that?
Get the horse to run, you get on that.
You had to sick the dog on him or something. But anyway, it took a team to pull that one bob. And it was work. When Dad bought the tractor, when they finally got the tractor and so forth in '46, I'll show you that. The tractor, Dad was so proud of it. I asked him, I said, what did Grandpa think when you got a tractor? He said, well, he didn't know. He was pretty skeptical at first until they hooked it to the plow and plowed one day. It'd go all day long. I pulled 2 bottoms and didn't wear you out. So anyway, here's a question. What was this on there for? See that knife-looking thing? That was a sod cutter. He cut the sod. Made it pull hard, I bet, too. But it took at least 2 horses to pull this, and it depended on the ground how hard it pulled. Some of this old clay rocky ground around here, it was hard. And it was a lot of work, and you had to rest the team. When they got tired, you had to rest them. So, okay, let's lay it back down over here a minute again.
Yes, sir.
I've done my share of that.
I got it.
You got everything? Okay, just lay it down there.
You got it. Turn it this way.
All right. Okay. Now, there's a lot of work, no doubt about
Thank you,
it.
everybody.
A lot of hard work. Now, my grandfather was only 5'6". He wasn't a big man at all. My grandmother was even smaller. She kept records when she first came down here that were very meticulous. In fact, she recorded everything that they bought, how much they paid for it, and how much they made. It's all in a little old book she had. I think it was probably in her treasure, or what do they call that treasure, that chest that they have when they get married, and they had, all the women used to put their dishes and stuff. Dowry, yeah. That book was in there. And she didn't even know how to spell her name yet. She misspelled it. It's interesting. My grandfather could speak and write fluent German. He was 7 when they came over from Bochum, Germany. And so he could speak all of that. And for a while, his dad, my great-grandfather, lived with him. After his wife died, he came here and lived with him. My grandmother used to get irritated because they talked in German. She couldn't understand them. She came from Henley, Missouri. Okay. This is wheat that's ready to be cut. Now, farmers were proud of everything they did. They like to show you their horses. They like to show you their field and their grain and their farm and everything. That's why they're in the middle of the field getting their picture to it. That was Dad. My Aunt Claire, she became a school teacher and taught all over Wayne County. And that's my Uncle George. And I can take you about to where that spot was, and that's wheat. We're going to talk a little bit about wheat. And so the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is this thing. More work, lots of work. I've never used this thing, but in 1950, my grandmother had records where Grandpa used this grain cradle, cut the wheat, and had 80 bushels of wheat that year that he cut with this cradle. Now, the cradle, there'll be more pictures later, the cradle was better than cutting it with a little stick. Now, the old timers, really old timers, in ancient times, they had a little side they cut with like this and made bundles. But this was faster. If you wound up and you started way back here, they said, this is what Dad told me, I never used this, come all the way around, you got a bundle full of wheat right there. And then if you're real careful and coordinated, you dumped it like that, and then you tied it up by hand, usually with more straw. There'll be a picture of this and show you. So anyway, we cut about, I don't know how many acres, but 80 bushels. Now that grain cradle is in rough shape. There is a good one back there, and somebody brought that in and donated it to us, and it still looks good. That one's rough. It's been in the barn and wherever all that time. Okay, there's not from Wayne County. This is mostly Wayne County, and I took a picture of that because it's better than anything I had. But here is a bundle, and it's tied with string. And I'll show you a picture of our old binder here next or so. And this time they had an old tractor. It's an old Farmall tractor. It says it right on there. That was an old Farmall F20, if you're interested in tractors. And anyway, it had 4 gears, and as they all said, it had slow, and a bad word, and darn slow. Anyway, it's a grain binder. Took 2 people to run it basically, and it would cut the wheat, and it fell on a platform right here, and that platform run the wheat up there and over and down and into the knotters. You can see the knotters right there. And when it got full, it tripped like a hay baler and kicked out a bundle. You can see the bundle there. You can also see, this is why it shows the picture, it's pretty plain. You can see a hand sticking out there from the other way. You see these tines. It carried the bundles. And you carried them until you got a load and you dumped them. That way, when you went to shock the wheat, you didn't have to chase all over. There was a pile here, and the next time there's a pile there. And as you go around the field, you try to keep them together as much as you could. My job, when I was really young, was to grab the bundles that weren't in a pile and put them in there. And so when we shopped, it's okay. There's a picture of, that you see there. It doesn't show everything very well, but there's my grandpa on the left, and that was Gus, my dad's brother, and there's George, his other brother there, and they were cutting wheat about 1930, best I can tell. And I was judging that by the age of my dad and his brothers and so forth. And that was on our farm there, and they were cutting wheat. Okay. There's another picture. We put that on there to show you a little bit closer, if we could, about the bundles and stuff. But the other picture I put in there showed everything a lot plainer and clear. There is, we're going to have more about that, but there is, I can remember, this was Bob Booker's thresher. It was a McCormick Deering thresher, and I remember the sale when they sold a few years ago, and somebody bought it out of the state. They sent it here all the way, and it wasn't in good shape anymore. It set out, it was metal, mostly metal, and a lot of it rusted and so forth. But anyway, these 2 boys in front are the only ones I know positively. Their name was Gray. They lived on the old Keith's place, if that means anything to some of you. Yeah. And they were boys there. And I judged this picture by their age, that they looked like they were. And so that was Bob Booker's thresher. As kids, we called him the one-armed thresher man. He got his hand and an old corn shredder. He used to shred the corn farther up to feed the cows, and it took it off. He got his glove, had a glove on it, got his glove in there, caught it, and took his arm off. But anyway, that's what he did. He went around from place to place threshing. David has done that. I can remember him coming to our place even. In 1956 was the last time I can remember the farmers all getting together and going with the thrash machine from place to place to here, helping everybody out. Took a lot of labor to make one of these things operate. And the thrash machine was stationary. They put the thrash machine together with a binder and they called it a combine. There you go. That's how combine got its name. They combined them. And so they cut out some of the extra labor. And so, anyway, I can remember Bob Booker coming down thrashing. The last time that he made the route was in '56. I did some calculations and some subtractions and eliminations and come up with 56. Anyway, okay. Now, every farmer prayed for a good crew. Who was his best crew? The family. And this is Uncle Gus, and that's Dad, that's Claire, who was a school teacher. There's Ada, my grandmother, and there's her husband, Gus, my grandpa and grandma. They're a little older there. This was about 1937. And that's in the yard there. I've had a lot of pictures taken right there in the yard at the old home place. The old home place is going down now. It's all fell in and everything. And my grandpa liked to have a dog that did tricks. I've got another picture that was taken the same time. My grandma was going like that, and he's trying to get the dog to do a trick and set up. And that's what he's doing there, I bet. Anyway, you had to have a good crew. Here's Dad in 1949. Mom and Mom had just got married. And anyway, they're city cousins. There's my grandpa and my grandma. Their city cousins came down. A lot of these pictures came from our city cousins. We didn't take pictures. What do you want to take a picture for? And so this came from our city cousins, and that's in 1949. There's the wagon that came down from Mary's Home, Missouri on the freight train. And so what had happened there, that thrash machine put a big pile of straw out. When he's all done thrashing, you had a big pile. A tornado come along and blew it away, and they're putting it back on there. And I wanted the worst way to have an original picture of that big straw pile. It was at least twice that tall. They put it up just as high as a thresher would put it and stacked it, and so forth. We're going to run a thresher again this fall. We'll advertise, and you can all come out to the farm. We've done it before. There's some pictures over there on the counter, and you can see it run. I'm going to show you a little bit here in a little bit with a clip. But anyway, that's my grandpa, and this was during the war. Dad wasn't there. He was overseas. And so that's the old wagon. Now, it's a wagon just like this wagon. Only this has got a wagon box on it, and I'll show you in a little bit. This is the hay frame that you hauled hay on. Now here's a picture of a grain cradle being used. I didn't have anybody want to demonstrate that really. So there's the picture. It's not on our farm, but he's using the grain cradle to cut wheat. It looks like he leaves the stubble a little irregular. He might have been pretty good though, I don't know. Okay. There's another picture, and I put that in there. It's not on our farm. See the big field? We don't have anything like that. This is shocking wheat. You always cut it and you shock the bundles. Now I made a couple bundles here.
Good enough of my life.
I'm going to make a mess, but that's the way it's going to be. And they made bundles. Now these are a little small. They were usually bigger. You can tell there. And these were made by a binder. No, these weren't. I cut this. This is not wheat. This is Johnson grass. So anyway, the first thing you did to start a shock is you grabbed them by the top like this, and you put them down, and you set the bottom down so they stand up. And you put them together. And there's your start. Put two this way and some more. That took about 8 bundles to make a shock. I've done that. David's done it. Anybody else shock wheat? Anybody in here? Richard Lee remembers it.
Yeah, my share of it.
Anyway, now, why did you go to the other trouble to shock it? Why did you make shocks? That's just more work, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. The wheat needed to dry out. That let the grain dry out. You see, set the butts down, the grain, the heads are up, and then you see the cap on there? We put 2 caps on most of ours, one way and one the other. You took a bundle and you laid it across your arm like this, and then you broke it down. I won't do that, this will come all to pieces. But anyway, I did that just for demonstration purposes. And anyway, people would ask, well, how did you ever farm with those old tractors when they first came out? And that one would have been, they came out with rubber on tractors. Alice Chalmers was the first one that did it in 1933. They came out with rubber on tractors. And Alice Chalmers would tell people when they came in to buy a tractor, they said, now, we don't have any steel right now, we got rubber. And if you don't like it, you take it and we'll bring it back and we'll put steel on it. People said, we don't want those rubber tires, they'll go flat and they'll wear out and so forth. We want steel. The people that took the tractors with rubber, they said never brought them back. And so the rubber actually will outpull the steel, believe it or not. The steel, once it spins, is buried. It just goes straight down and so forth. Anyway, okay, Mary. There is some wheat that has been hand tied. I've seen Dad do that. I never did. You see this hand tied. He would cradle it, take up the bundle, grab it, and grab some straw out of the top of it and wrap it up and tuck it in. It's kind of like tucking in your shirt tail, you know, when it comes to pants or something. But anyway, that's wheat. Now this is non-bearded wheat. What's that mean? See the heads on this? Some of the old wheat had little spikes that come out. Every grain had a little spike come out, and they called that bearded wheat. It was murder to do it by hand. That was just poked in. You use long sleeves for sure. Your fingers got sore down in between there from handling it and everything else. But anyway, that's the shock. That's the start of a shock anyway. It's not capped out yet. There is Dad. Does anybody know what he's doing there?
Yep.
What's he doing, David?
He's the tire that's got them spikes down on it.
All right. He's pulling a section harrow.
Yep.
Now this is the one that the folks had right here. It's wore out. It's all about to pieces. But they pulled that on the plowed ground. See, when they plowed it, it was irregular and rough to work down a seed bed. And that's our old mules, Kate and Sue. They were good mules, usually.
Ours was Kate and Fan.
They always said a good mule was a worked mule. If you didn't work them, they got ornery. Anyway, Dad is pulling a section harrow working down a seed bed. They don't do that anymore. What do they do now to prepare a seed bed?
Fire up the tractor.
Yeah? What do they do to prepare it?
No chill drill.
No till. They burn it down with chemicals, Roundup or something. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Roundup just settled a big lawsuit. They burn it down, and then they no-tilled it. And so it did away with all the plowing and harrowing and all that because it's a lot of labor and very expensive. More gas than a tractor. Okay. All right, after they got the all worked down, you had a good seed bed. That's my uncle there, George. What's he doing? He's planting. They called it drilling. He drilled the wheat. You put the wheat in there, and you put the fertilizer in there, and it went down a little tube in the ground, had little coulters there on the bottom that cut a little groove, just like the newer ones still do, and you seeded it. And it took a lot of trips across the field. I can remember them doing that. And so that was during the war again. They took pictures and sent them to Dad when he was overseas and stuff. And that's how I know when that was, during World War II. Mary. There's a hay frame, there's the wagon, but it's got a hay frame on it now. You took the box bed off, and you could set a hay frame on there. Now, I never did understand why they left holes all in it and just put a few boards here and a few there, and you's always falling through and skinning your shins and everything else, but it held the hay, and so they did that. That was Gus, who was in New York by this time with his city wife. She come to the farm and she thought, wow, this is something. I never saw this before, but he thought it was something to show her that. And this was during the war as well. And why do they have burlap on the mules' backs?
So
David, why, huh?
They had what?
Why'd they have burlap on the back of the mules' sacks, burlap sacks? Flies, especially horse flies. You know what happens when a horsefly
Yep.
bites.
Yep, they were bucking
You
and
start
jumping.
scrambling around, and so did they. Did you ever see a mule shake off a horsefly? They use their tail, of course, just like a cow, but they get the quivers. They just shake their sides or wherever. They just shake their hides just like that. Berna, my sister, that's her right there. Hold your hand up, Berna. She was gonna ride the mules one day, and the mules put her off. Didn't throw her, didn't buck. They did the quiver thing. Just slid off. Mike, where'd you, oh, you didn't know that, did you?
No, no. I don't think I was there for that one.
No, you weren't. Okay, Mary. That is wheat stacks. It's not been thrashed yet. You can see the thrash machine sitting right there. And what's going on there, this was Bob Booker's thresher. And to make things go better, you hauled the shocks out of the field and you stacked them. And you stacked them so it's right there at the thresher, you could throw it right in there. And you didn't have to haul it all in the day the thresher was there. Now at times they did. If you had enough wagons and enough help and enough men, they could be hauling, and they just kept coming with the wagons and thrashing just like it was there. Now, I have a variety of forks. Tim's gonna come up here. I have a variety of forks here. I gathered them all up. Tim will hold a couple. This is Tim Eddington.
Hi,
He's our main man around here.
pay no attention.
Okay, here's my question. Can you hold them up a little bit like that, man? Which fork would you use to fork those funnels up there on that pile like that? You put it up there with a wagon, and you
Forward.
threw them on the pile.
Forward.
Use the 4-tine. Okay. All right, this one right here. This is a 4-tine bundle fork. This one is just a regular pitchfork for hay usually.
Yeah.
Well, here's why you use the bundle fork. You can fork a bundle and just get one. If you used the wide fork, you had to watch, you'd end up with 2 or something. And notice something. Thank you. Look how long that handle is. Why the long handle? You can throw it plumb on top. You put it up there with a wagon. Now the secret was to pull up there with a wagon that was already loaded up, and you could get it higher. And then you start another pile that was a little shorter to finish the load off. Now, this is also a bundle fork, but it's got 3 tines. You may know what kind of fork that was. It's got shorter tines, heavier handle, and shorter handle.
Manure fork.
It was a manure fork. You clean the stalls out with that. Okay. I'm sure you all wanted to know that.
I remember doing that, whichever way you threw it, the wind blew back.
Yes, I know it. Okay. When you go looking at forks at the hardware store now, you say, I know what that is. Mary.
Guess the price of them though.
Yeah. Yeah. They're $25 or so if you don't get one to sale or something, at least. That's used. Around. This is when they got the tractor and it was brand new. You can tell there. Look at the back tires. They're still brand new. Now you can do a lot of things with a new tractor. They had a mandrel there, and they put a grinding wheel there, and he is sharpening the sickle. Let's see. Like this one.
That's your sickle.
That's your sickle. That's what you cut hay with, for
Hay
the most part.
Or wheat, or whatever you're
Wheat.
cutting.
How long is that sickle?
4 feet, 4.5.
I'm 5'10". It's short.
Yeah.
That's a lot of trips around the field. But the mules couldn't pull a whole lot. You had to have something they could pull. So this fit in the mowing machine. Now, later they bought a mowing machine, it was longer. It was a foot longer. Now, I cut with a sickle behind a tractor. I've still got it and so forth for quite a while. Cut a lot of hay with it. And it was 9 foot. But anyway, you could put a grinding stone on that mandrel, run it with a belt and everything, and you could sharpen your sickle. We also had a saw blade to go on there, and you could cut your firewood. You would get limbs, and you take logs, and you would split them so that you had rails. You had rails of appropriate size to burn in the stove. You didn't have to split it that way. You split it with a wedge, and you split the logs out, and you run them on there. And with a saw blade, it was totally exposed. No wonder OSHA made some rules. And anyway, I can remember doing that. And then Dad bought a chainsaw, and that mandrel is still sitting in the barn.
Is that
Never
an
used it
H or an
again.
M?
Huh?
Is that an H or an M?
That's an H.
Okay.
From there, you probably can't see it.
I can't see it.
Yeah, that's an H farm-all.
You splurged on that one,
Yeah.
because you got electric and you got rubber.
Yeah, that was a deluxe tractor.
Didn't come with that.
Yeah, it's brand new there. Even the seat cover is still intact. I've never seen one that was older that had a good seat unless it was replaced.
I didn't know they ever had them.
Well, you could buy replacement seat covers and so forth. But you talking about being proud of something, they were proud of that tractor. Okay, Mary. There's another picture of it when it was brand new. Look at it, you can tell it. I labeled that new tractor, old ways. Tractor's new, what about the old ways? How'd they put that hay on the wagon? By hand, with a pitchfork. They pitched it all on there. Now, I told you that every farmer took pride in everything they did and so forth. Dad did. There wasn't any loose stuff on there. It's well shaped and everything, and it's a big load. Dad made sure that it looked good, even if they just going just to the barn. I don't ever remember turning over a load of loose hay. Now, square bales, yeah, I can remember riding one of those to the ground, but somebody didn't stack them very good. But anyway, they bought the tractor from Philip Twidwell. He's over here on our board. I don't remember where exactly, but he's on here. They bought this at Club. The unique thing was, this is a 46. In the war, you couldn't get a tractor. Hardly ever. They were making guns and war materials and all of that. And so Dad had to get a special permit to get that tractor over at Club. They had an international dealership over there. Did you ever know that or anything?
Yeah, I knew that.
You knew that?
It's Harold's dad
Yeah, Harold Twidwell's dad. Uh-huh.
and Mary.
Tommy,
Shear.
Tom Shear's wife
What, yeah.
was Philip's
Right.
daughter. And so then they moved, I understand, after a while, they moved to Greenville, the dealership and so forth. But anyway, Tommy Shear restores farm-all tractors. That's his thing, is tractors, farm-all. And he's asked me about buying that, and I said, there's plenty others for sale. Still got it. It's sitting in the barn now, though, and the tires are flat. I need to get it out and get it going. So anyway, I can remember them disking and plowing and stuff for hours in the spring, getting everything ready to go. And of course, they pulled about a 7-foot disc, believe it or not, with that tractor. But that's a lot better than all the other, and I can remember that. That H Farmall was a good tractor. I overhauled it the 3rd time. They used it so hard. I mean, they used the dickens out of it. And there was 2 of them, him and his brother, and they took turns. They double teamed it. Mary. There they are in 52, cutting wheat with it. It's older now. Look, the tires are about wore out. And so they used the dickens out of it just in that amount of time. But that's my dad on the back, and George, his brother, on the front, and they were cutting wheat with a binder there again, but they had a tractor now. Okay, Mary. This was from Pete Kaiser's farm, and Harold, I thought, might be here. His dad owned that tractor. I copied that picture and gave it to him, and he said, you know, I thought he was gonna cry. That's the only picture I've got of Dad's old tractor. And they were thrashing, and you see there, they'd hauled the wheat in, and they just about got that stack thrashed. There's another one there ready to thrash, but that's unthrashed. That's not with it's a straw. That was on Pete Kaiser. They had 2 kids. Pete in Virginia had Bruce and Brenda. You may know them. Bruce is gone now. Okay. This was in 65. There's Gus. They're looking older now. I think Dad was 52 there. And I remember looking at that picture when I was 52 and thinking, whoa, that's how old I am. That was at the old home place that's fallen down now. And this is my grandmother, Ada. Her husband, my grandpa, died in 58. She lived to be 98 years old and died in 75. A lot of longevity there. Now she looks like she's frail and sitting down there. She was a bit frail. She could jump up and run if she wanted to. I've seen her do it. There you go. This is a future farmer, maybe. That's Dad. And this is Mikey Blank, Dad's great-grandson, my daughter's son, when he was first born. Someday, he may live on the farm out there. I got my fingers crossed. Mary. How many do square bales anymore? Nobody? Why not?
Can't get nobody to load them.
They're a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. You gotta bale them and haul them and put them in the barn, and unless you're really set up for square bales, and some have done that. There are people who've done that. It's a lot of work, and I don't know anybody around here close that does that. There's a person who will do it for horse hay, and they sell them for, oh, I don't know, Mary, how much does a square bale go for now? I see them go for $12
I don't know.
for 1 square bale because of the labor and so forth.
I noticed you're making your wife drive the tractor.
Yeah. I told her if I hadn't married her, I'd had to hire somebody. She's heard me say it. Anyway, that's Dad's old case baler. We've got a different one since then. And anyway, it still did pretty good. There's a whole field full of bale there, hay there. And it wouldn't have been baled square bales, except this was some exceptional orchard grass. It was cured, when it was cured out, the cows would die for it. It was good hay, okay. Now, this is not modern times, but there is a round baler and a Cheryl Ricken again. And why did everybody go to round bales?
Couldn't get no help.
Couldn't get any help. Now, there's a lot of advantages to a round baler because you can bale it up and leave it set without having to rush to get it in the barn. With square bales, you better get them in the barn. It might rain on them, and that'd ruin them. They didn't shed water. Besides, if you wait the next day, there might be a snake under them. And so I picked that picture because it's one of the better ones I had. I wanted one with some round bales where I was already round baling, but there's not any in that picture. Now that round baler is a 78. The tractor is a 658. And so that's old technology. What are the round balers like now?
Computer control.
All computer controlled. They're high tech. If you got a cab tractor, you don't even have to watch it. You got a monitor. Now that one you better watch it. I got a crick in my neck till I learned a little bit more about it. But I've still got that old baler, and I've baled a lot of hay with it. But it's all low tech. But anyway, the new balers take a lot more horsepower. That old D17 wouldn't pull it. A new one. They bale them so tight and so hard, it's like hitting a wall if you hit it with your fist. The new bales, new round balers. And they got net wrap and all that kind of stuff. That's string tie there. And they'll last better outside. And all kinds of things. And they're a lot faster. They're fast, you know. They can really go whip it out. And so the new balers are a lot better. That's an old 78 John Deere baler. It's a 510 baler, but it's made in 78. But it still bales hay a little bit, and I use it.
How much does one of the new ones cost?
Yeah. I bought that used for $5,400 or something like that. I bought one here a year or so ago. I went looking for parts, and I found one all the way up Bonne Terre on money. What's that? Marketplace. And I went up there to look at it, and it was better than the one I had. They only wanted $1,000. It wasn't more than theirs, but it still had a lot of paint on places that mine didn't. But anyway, the new balers take a lot more horsepower, more gas, and everything. But they bale them tight, they're a lot heavier. And if you sell hay, usually you do it by the ton. Now you sell it by the bale, that's what I always did. But if you want to, you know, really measure it, you have to measure by the ton. Okay.
How much does one of those newer balers cost?
Oh, wow, Cheryl asked that. I told you the price of that and so forth, basically. But 65,000 maybe. Depends on what options you have. That's why I'm still, more. I don't know how much, but more. That's why I still got that baler. I can't pay for 65,000 and make it come out. It just won't happen. But anyway, all right.
Well, wonderful.
We're gonna have a video here at the very end of the thresher running that we did 2 years ago. The guy came down from DeSoto. My DeSoto friends know him, Ray Husky. And he made a video of it. It's short. It shows the Historical Society and so forth. And there it's coming up. It's getting there, Mary.
Well, it should. I don't know if we're not connected or something.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Harold Twidwell right there. See his suspenders? It's him. We bought that tractor off of his dad. Notice the big long drive belt. It's 75 feet long. The original belt was 100 feet long. Why would you want such a long drive belt?
Keep far away from the,
Keep the old steam engine fire away from the thresher and straw and all that. This will be the last thing when she brings it up. And it was a video from 2 years ago. And it was sponsored by the Historical Society. You can see that long belt right there, some of it. The guy with the straw hat is Tim Jinkerson. There it comes. That was out at the house. Thank you, Mary. That's the wobble wagon we made. I'm gonna rebuild that thing someday. I always put round bales out for the kids to play on. Our old thrasher's a 1919 Red River made by Nicholas Shepherd. There it comes. Now David's done that. He knows what it is. No, I don't think so. That was 2 years ago. We're not throwing bundles in there. We didn't have any bundles of wheat. We got hay bales. They used to say an old car, I said, that thing sounds like an old flash machine. It runs so bad. I thought that flap on the bell was neat.
Oh, yeah.
There's Ray Husky. He's the one that did that. We thank him for doing that. He's from DeSoto. He came all the way down here just like Chuck and Vicky.
Gary?
Yes.
So that top part of the wheat kernels is what would come out and go down into the bag, and everything else is straw? Is that what straw is?
Yes.
The
And
wheat
it went out on the
stalks?
pile, out the back of the machine, out the, what Dad always called the horn. This pipe right there. It went out in a pile. That was all the straw and chaff and everything else. It has a big cylinder in there. The cylinder, this is the main drive shaft right there. The belt runs that shaft, and then it runs a big cylinder with teeth on it. It has a cylinder with teeth and a concave that the teeth went together just like this. And you adjusted that for clearance. You got it too tight, it cracked your wheat grain. You got it too loose, it didn't thresh it. So you had to cut that down. You changed it for different kinds of stuff, and that would thresh it. Once that got it all knocked out and everything, then the rest of the machine all the way out was to reclean it. It had shakers. It had 2 sets of shakers, and you could see those shaking it there, and that shook all the straw and the chaff out. And it had a big fan that blew on it, and it blew the chaff out, and the fan on the thing is down low, and the grain came out here, went up the elevator, and then out down that way. And then it had a recleaner. If it had too much chaff in it, it would run it back up and run it through the cylinder again. This is a wood frame thresher. It's old. And the newer ones, like the one we showed you previously, were metal. Now it's not all wood. Notice the tongue. Even the axle is wood with a rod to reinforce it underneath. Dan was there and she saw it. It's all wood except the feeder. Now at this time, Nicholas Shepard started making thresh machines about the 1850s. And this wasn't the one they made. They improved it till this was their star model. In fact, other threshing companies used this as a guide. This was a better machine and available at that time, and so forth. And then about the time in 1919 when they made this, they changed it to a metal thresher. I'm sure you want to know that.
What would they have paid for that? Brand new?
I
Any
don't
idea?
know.
If you look again, then
Gary, when you said your grandfather got 80 bushels of wheat, what was the thresher like that they were using then? What drove it?
Well, you saw the Pete Kaiser thing. They had a tractor, it's an old steel wheel. Now that tractor was steel wheel and he changed the converter to rubber. Once rubber come out, everybody was changing because they wanted rubber on their
But in
tractor.
1912, when you said your grandfather, I think,
Yes.
got 80 bushels in
Right,
1912?
I was 1915.
Oh, okay.
1915, and there were tractors then of different sorts, and they were on steel, but they had a belt pulley to run that big wide belt here.
And how did they thresh wheat before the steam engine?
Well, if you go back to biblical times, they had a threshing floor, and they beat it out with a flail. And there's scripture in the Bible that says, "Don't muzzle the ox; he deserves his pay, and you let him eat if he wants to." And so they used oxen. They went round and round and round. Now you could, if you put too much effort into it, it would crack your grain, like a rock or a grinding stone or something. So the oxes did pretty good. And then after they trampled it real good, they'd get a wind and throw it up in the air. and let the wind blow. Then they sweep it up, shovel it up, and put it in a bag.
Wasn't that separating the wheat from the chaff? Isn't that what that was for? Throwing it
Yeah,
up in the air?
it's separated, you threw it up in the air so the chaff blew away, and
And you still had your.
the grain was, it fell down on a threshing floor, something like that. I never did do it.
Well, along this train of thought, those Germans were really good farmers
And threshing.
and agriculturalists. So when your great-grandparents, they came from Germany,
Yes,
how did they farm in Germany and what did they bring with them?
I don't know.
Were they
We-
farmers in Germany?
Well, I've been told several things. I don't think so.
Wow, so they had to learn.
They did, and back then, you did a little bit of everything. In my grandmother's book, it's all the stuff she had. They even bought a registered bull in 1917, and all the neighbors came up to bring their cows up to breed the cow. They wanted to get some seed stock from that bull. There's a tie over there that's been hand hewn or hacked with a broadaxe. My grandpa did that in the wintertime. They grew a big garden, and you could take your garden stuff into town. Frank Phillips, when I was a kid, used to buy anything you'd take. You brought in beans, gooseberries, strawberries, rhubarb, potatoes. He'd buy anything, eggs. And in the book, my grandmother had 100 chickens at one time, and she sold eggs and sold chicks and all of that. And my grandfather did a lot of work. He worked from daylight to dark, but my grandmother cooked all the meals, took care of all the garden, took care of all the laundry, took care of the kids, and milked the cows. A lot of times. She miscarried one time because the cow kicked her. And she had a hand that was broke, figures, from an old cow stepping on her. So, she was small. She was smaller than my grandpa. He was 5'6", but she was a hard worker. I never have worked as hard as they did. I don't know how they did it. But I remember Dad talking about doing the chores, getting up early, doing the chores, and running into town at the high school. So he'd run across the hill from Clark's Creek, over the hill, come into Pump House Road to school. And then, he said usually he ran. And then after school, he had to run home again and work in the field till dark or so. Milk the cows and whatever. And those old cows had to be milked twice a day.
Yeah, they come right down through our grandpa's farm.
Yes, they did, right by the
Right
Waits
our
place.
house that we live above grandpa, they come right down the road.
When Mary Hampton was still living, she's
Yeah.
gone now, she
Yeah.
lived 90-some years
Yeah,
old.
Yeah.
She told me one day, she says, I remember your dad coming down there, just lickety-split down
Yeah.
the road. But, anyway, back to what was asked about the Germans, my grandpa came when he was 7 with his family, and I got the ship's manifest. The ship was called the Elba. The manifest had everybody listed, and they listed Barber. I'd been told he was a miner, and that's why he left Germany. He got tired of that. But they had Barber listed on, that was a shock to me, so I don't know what he did over there for sure.
I thought he was a shoe cobbler too.
Yeah, he did that some here, once they got here. And another thing he did is he worked on the Rock Island Railroad before he got married. I wish I knew more than I did. I do. Ernie, you got anything to add?
No, just that question, I thought.
Okay, any other questions?
Did they write in the old German or is it the new German?
Old German.
Yeah, that's hard
I
to
have
get
letters.
translated.
I have letters that he wrote, correspondence, and like I said, my grandfather was very fluent, and he had a beautiful handwriting. And I brought some of those letters to somebody in here, Wayland for one, to see if they could interpret that. I took one of the letters I took to Mike and Sue, and their friend, and she couldn't translate it. It was the old German.
You can translate it.
I bet you got some German blood.
I do. I haven't
translate.
tried Google Translate, but you might try that on the old stuff. I had a terrible time getting it done.
Yeah,
I took it to some German expert and I just stood in the crowd and held my paper so he could see it, and he jumped right on that. I just said thank you after he
Yeah.
translated.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
and his dad didn't speak much English.
Yep.
He never did, he spoke German.
Yep.
And he had a good handwriting in German, it looked good, you know.
I
Anyway,
guess you're gonna have to learn that script.
I don't know who's got to teach it. Okay. I hope this has been interesting. I wanted it to be interesting, and I didn't want to bore anybody to death, but, and we didn't cover a lot of things. It was just a synopsis of kind of what farming used to be like. We didn't raise any corn or anything like that. Dad quit raising wheat and corn and all that, and about 78 or so. And they'd milked cows all their life, hand milked them, separated the cream. That's another thing they did for money. They milked the cows and put it in a cream separator. We've got one over there, it's a small one. And it separated the cream from the milk. We shipped the cream. Made a little money that way every week. So they were subsistence farmers. That means they did a little bit of everything, whatever they could do to survive.
Just to live.
Huh?
Just to live.
Just to live. It didn't make much money, but just to live. But anyway, whenever Dad turned 65, he retired. Didn't quit farming, he just quit milking cows. George, his brother, said, well, I'm gonna keep one old cow from milk. Dad said, not me, I'm done with cows. And so he started doing what I do, which is cattle and calves and hay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Fred? No? Richard Lee is a neighbor. He grew up with me.
Hard to get to leave.
He saw a lot of stuff that was done back then. His dad did too. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I hope you didn't come just for me. Remember Mary, she's back here. She's what she's gonna hide. You get ahead there. She did a good job. She worked miracles working with me. Okay, there is refreshments back here. The ladies prepared. And so don't run.